Sit right down and I'll show you where my dreams began.
I'm Michael Dugan, your culinary host, guiding you through the chef's journey. Join me at the chef's table, where you'll experience stories, secret sauces, signature dishes, and kitchen disasters. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 37, as we join Chef Ed as he takes us behind the scenes on Food Network's Chopped, and we'll explore how his career exploded from then till now.
So I got on the show. When we actually get to film the show, it's really intense. You get there like at 6 a.m. and if you last all the way to the end, you're leaving till about 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like a whole day process just for that 1 hour of TV that you see. But there's so many pauses and waits in between. You know, they have to reset the stage, they have to reset the cameras and all that stuff. And then the deliberation between the judges, that could take an hour, 2 hours, depending on, you know, the dishes that were put out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Chopped was definitely an amazing experience. It was so hot in the kitchen. Like,
really? Oh, the floodlights. I never even thought about that. Holy shit. That's intense,
dude,
man.
You totally have those in front of you and they are like really close to you. You have the oven cranking at 550 degrees. You have a pot of water boiling on each stove because there are 4 contestants. So there's a lot going on. And then on top of all of that, something that the viewers don't see is the floor where you're running back and forth. There are wires.
No way.
There are cables. Yes, there are humps that are covering certain wires so they don't get unplugged. So you have to run and jump over all of these things.
Wow.
And then to make stories even worse and to make it more intense is that they'll put like maybe 2 sticks of butter in the oven, in the refrigerator. So whoever gets to the butter first gets the butter. So if you need butter and everyone else needs butter.
I think I remember that on Chopped. It's like you're not angry with people, but you're just in competition. So like you got to get it quick. You got to think fast, think on your feet.
You're frustrated. Yeah. So it was definitely intense. You know, I won and that's all that matters. So
wow. All right. So tell us a little bit more about that. So do you remember who you competed with?
So I remember it was 2 gentlemen and a young lady. And the lady, she was amazing. She had her own restaurant at the time, and she was doing really well. She was out in Long Island, actually. And then the 2 gentlemen, one of them worked at a Greek place, and the other gentleman worked at a private club. So they were all like in their prime, right? They were all executive chefs or owners. And I was a sous chef at the time at Buddakan. So, you know, I was up there, but not quite up there yet, you know, and
you were up there.
Thanks. My drive, you know, we were expecting our first child, my wife and I was like, you know what?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to win for Emma. You know, Emma is her name. And I'm winning. That's it. Like, I'm not taking any prisoners.
Okay.
I'm not entertaining anything else. That was the driving force for me, you know, just being able to say that this is what I'm going to do, you know, and I'm dedicating it to my daughters. It was emotional, you know, but it was amazing. It was really intense. And that whole experience, my judges were Aaron Sanchez, it was Scott Conant, and Jeffrey Zakarian. 3 amazing guys.
I have to tell you this. You'll get a kick out of this. I started watching it a few years ago, right? And all of them were on it. I may have even seen your show, and I need to go back and find it because I'm obviously going to watch it. And I think all our viewers should check it out too.
Season 4, episode 9. Yes.
Okay. So episode 9. So check it out. Make sure to check it out. But when I was watching Chopped, I really got into it. I was like, this is so creative because it's the way I cook. Like I look at the fridge and I go,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm not going to use that or I'm going to use that. And even in cooking school, my understanding, well, maybe not cooking school, when chefs become chefs, that's a competition that they throw out there to a lot of chefs is here's your basket. You got to prove yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we took a different spin on it with my wife. So my wife doesn't really like to cook that much. Our first episode was called Stay Hungry. And it's a really short one that tells you or explains why she hates to cook. So I do a lot of cooking when I'm not podcasting and we go out to eat and stuff. But my point is that when I was watching Chopped, she was fascinated by this idea. So she started playing this game with me where we would play verbal Chopped. And she would go, okay, you have these ingredients. And I'd whip something up in my head, right? And I'd say, this is how I would cook it. This is the dish.
Nice.
But she had a spin on it. And this is what speaks to my wife's character because she's very funny. And I would say, you have sea urchin, you have string beans, you have Jell-O, and you have something else. And she goes, okay, I would throw away the sea urchin right off the bat and I cook with these ingredients. So we sort of played this modified version of it, but I just wanted to throw that in there. I was thinking about it as you were saying it, but getting back to Chopped, what did that feel like when you won? Did you feel like you won? Or were you like, oh, I'm not sure, getting anxious? And you never seem nervous to me. I have to say it because every time I talk to you, you're always calm and cool and very mellow. Whew. So,
I mean, Chopped was, my stomach was definitely in knots. I'll tell you that. Yeah. I maybe took one bite that whole day.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't eat. Like my stomach was in knots. The last round, it was the young lady and myself. We actually did identical dishes, but just with different things. So they gave us English muffins, frozen cranberry, brie cheese, and rutabaga, and we both did French toast. She did a relish with the rutabaga and so did I. And then I made a cranberry sauce and so did she. It was neck and neck. Like her French toast was better than mine, the chef said, because it was a little bit more crispy on the outside. I like mine soft, but to each his own.
Sure.
Right. But then what I think really took me to the winning level was the fact that when I took the brie cheese and I made whipped cream with it. And what I did was, thank God for me bouncing around in different restaurants that I got to understand cheese a little bit more, right? Especially working at Buddakan because we had different types of cheese plates. So I scooped out the creamy inside of the brie cheese and left the rind and left the outside part, and I didn't use it. So that allowed me to stabilize my whipped cream and give it this really nice taste, but still really creamy and smooth. But with the young lady, she used the rind as well. So her cheese sauce was kind of grainy. And they mentioned that.
Fell apart a little. Okay. Wow.
Yes. My cranberry sauce, I love cooking with spices. So I added a bunch of cinnamon. I added star anise. I added some, what else did I add? Allspice, I think, to it. Okay. And I really just made the cranberry sauce really deep in terms of the levels of flavor, and that just kind of synced, and the judges really appreciated that. So I think they even called my sauce multi-dimensional or something. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. But until they called us back out, I was like, man, this could go either way, because I was thinking that her dish just looked better, because when they tasted her rutabaga, it definitely tasted better than mine. Rutabaga is so astringent, right? But I doused it. I did bourbon. I reduced it. I added brown sugar, cinnamon to it, but it still, to the judges was not good enough, So I'm like, man.
Oh my gosh.
Thank God the whipped cream and the cranberry sauce was excellent. So that was how that went down.
That's awesome. One thing, I don't know if we touched on this, but I want to make sure we do.
Yes.
How much time did you have to prepare that dish?
Oh, so the time that you see on TV is the actual time you get. So the first appetizer round is actually 20 minutes, like not a second more, not a second less. And then for entree and dessert is 30 minutes. So you have to think on your feet quickly, otherwise you will go down. So that was one of the other reasons why I think I did so well in Chopped, was because of all the experiences that I acquired over the years of bouncing between different restaurants.
Adapting.
Exactly, and just a wide knowledge of ingredients, because think about it. If you work in just one restaurant for 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you're only seeing a specific certain amount of ingredients and style of food. So you're not going to be able to go against someone that has worked in an Asian restaurant, an Italian restaurant, a French restaurant. There's no way. Right. Yes, your food might be great, but in terms of technique and cuisine, you're limited to that one place that you worked. Being able to acquire knowledge from different places, different cuisines, different nationalities, just different types and styles of food. As a chef, I think it's a must. Unless you want to just be a master at one particular cuisine, then
right.
then you stay one place. You know what I mean? or one style of food anyway.
I think being well-rounded and aware is probably the best approach for a chef, but that's personally how
I think so.
How I feel and what I learned, because I did bounce around too, and the experiences were amazing. You know, what happened after Chopped? Did Food Network reach back out, or what happens after something like that?
So once you do Chopped or any other show for Food Network, you're in their database. So you'll get emails of different shows that they're doing. And you can always just simply send in an email or reply to it and saying, hey, you know, I would like to do this. And they'll reach back out to you. And if things work and they're aligned, then you can get on the show. So after Chopped, fast forward, like I'm out of New York and we're in Atlanta, Georgia now. And, you know, I got an email about Beat Bobby Flay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they contacted me. So I flew back to New York to do that. And that was crazy. You can do shows if you want or not. It's totally up to you.
Sure. And then, of course, you won the Iron Chef International competition.
Yes.
And that was in Canada, right?
Yes, it was.
What was that like?
That was fun. You know, it was crazy. I went up against someone from Mexico. So with Iron Chef International, you were going up against countries.
Right.
So I was representing St. Lucia. And I went up against the French part of Canada, and then I went up against Mexico. I can't remember the other country. You know, two people went against each other, and then I went against someone else. I won that first round, and then I went up against the person from Canada, the French part of Canada. That was intense. It was 2.5 days.
Oh my gosh.
The challenge was spicy. So we had to do dishes that incorporate chilies. It was just really intense. It was fun. Like, I love being challenged. I would do it again if I could. It was a learning experience, nevertheless. It was really intense. You know, those 3 days of doing Iron Chef, it just allowed me to see what I could do, because we had like a really crazy situation. And one of my guys, because you could bring one person with you to help, like, you know, your sous chef, you know, I had to make a decision right there and then. Am I going to go solo, or am I going to, you know, work with my chef at the time and actually finish the competition? Mentally, I was ready to do it by myself. This whole competition just showed me, regardless of what happens, you know, when you're dedicated and your mindset is there, you can accomplish anything. We won.
Wow.
Right? It was definitely a landslide. We dominated the other competitors. Within doing that, it was just something that I was just really passionate about. I'm always trying to be positive in terms of what I do and how I think. But things happen, you know, during the course of the day or your life. It can throw you off, right? But you can't let it throw you off and stay there. You have to kind of just get back on the horse and, you know, just keep going, right?
And it's funny, as an outsider looking in, I've done a lot of research about your career and lots of amazing things that you've done. And I really feel like part of the reason you won is because this is in your roots. This is in your family. This comes all the way back to when you were a young kid.
Yes.
In St. Lucia and all over the Caribbean. I mean, it's so obvious to me as I take part in your journey that that's where it really comes from. And that's really special.
I think so, you know, and I thank you for saying that. And, you know, I never got to meet my grandmother on my mother's side.
Oh.
And I feel like she works through me because she was definitely an artisan. Like, she made her own wines.
Wow.
She made her own breads. You know, she was just really amazing when it came to, you know, cooking and just creating things that people can consume, you know, people can eat. And I feel that I get a lot of my talent from her. So, you know, like you said, it's definitely deep oriented, and I breathe food. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I will see ingredients. Like I was just saying, because I'm about to do this dish on this live. And when I traveled to India, we had this amazing salad at one of the hotels we were staying. And immediately I was like, I need to redo this salad when I get home.
Right. I do that. Yeah.
I just remembered what I had. And chefs, we do this, right? That I pride myself on recreating things or just coming up with dishes that I really zing with, right? You know, things that speak to me. I just love it. I breathe food, and I feel like that's what just makes me who I am. I speak food, you know?
I do know. That's why I've been following you. It's addictive. And our listeners, you've got to follow Chef Ed. We're going to talk about that part of it, how to reach out to him and everything, because he's got some incredible ideas about how to keep you connected. As we move along, I want to take it one step back, because I know that you left Buddakan for a reason, and you left New York for a reason. Can you share that with us?
Yes, most definitely. All things come to an end at some point in time. My last year at Buddakan, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do with myself, with my life? We had one child already. Things were getting kind of crazy. I had started a business with my wife, a hair business.
Oh.
It was taking off, kind of opened up my eyes to just working for myself. And I was like, I've been kind of consulting for off and on. And I was like, I would really like to just consult and not be in the kitchen day to day, because birthdays were happening and almost missed birthdays. I would have to request time off. And, that kind of bothered me, because like I'm all about, hanging out with my family and just being there for my kids' birthdays and things like that. And just doing that, being a dad, being the best dad I can be.
Absolutely.
With our business taking off, me being able to consult when I want and just creating that schedule for myself, I kind of got spoiled. Leaving Buddakan was so bittersweet. Like, there were tears.
I believe it.
From a lot of people, including myself, because like we were a family, we became a family and still are to this day. Loved working there with every being, every part of my body.
Yeah.
Because I learned so much, and it was such a great place for me to just evolve and become the chef that I am today. I can never say anything bad about Buddakan. It was just all such a great experience. So I really, truly appreciate being there. We decided that with the way things were going with school and how expensive it was with school in New York.
In New York? Oh, yeah.
And just living in general, we were like, I don't really want to spend all of my money trying to live. Jane she grew up in Atlanta, and Jane's my wife. So we visited Atlanta a few times. And every time I came here, I was just like, oh my God, this place is amazing. Like, why am I not living here? Like, I loved it.
I love it. Okay, what do you love about Atlanta? Let's get into it really quick.
I love the seasons. Like, you get actual spring, summer, winter, and fall. Like, you get all 4 seasons. In New York, it's like summer and winter. Like, that's it. Like, you get like a week of spring or fall. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Being from the Caribbean, like, I love the warm weather. So being able to have fall, spring, and summer is awesome for me. So,
wow.
Those were one of the deciding factors. And I just looked at her one day and I was like, hey, let's move to Atlanta. Like, I just love when I'm there, how I feel.
Wow.
I just love being outside. It's just like a different vibe. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm a New Yorker to the core. Like, I love going to New York. I love eating in the restaurants in New York. Like, the vibe there, you can't replace it.
I think touring New York through your eyes would be absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Like, I've eaten and worked at some amazing places.
Yeah.
That was just part of my experience with New York that I can never forget. So we decided we were going to move to Atlanta because it's just cheaper cost of living. It's just beneficial, in so many different ways. And 2 of Jane's sisters were already here. So it just kind of made sense. That's why we moved to Atlanta. And, we haven't looked back since. It's been an amazing journey.
That's really amazing. So it's really family that you made that decision. When you moved to Atlanta, I know that you had the hair business, but also you became a consultant, right?
Yes.
What do you do? What do you consult on? And tell us a little bit about that.
Most definitely. So consulting for me varies depending on the client, right? I worked on a few different projects where I'll create menus for people or I'll help them retrain the staff. I came here and I worked with Fort Fry, which is an amazing restaurateur in Atlanta. And I helped him revamp training for one of his restaurants, King and Duke in Buckhead, there for about 6 months. So consulting for me can go anywhere from a week to a month to 6 months, depending on the client and depending on the needs, right? I've also consulted with new restaurant concepts. So it really just depends on what the client is looking for. But consulting for me is just fun because it's the best of the restaurant world. You get to create your schedule, you get to go in, you get to create food, and you get to leave. You're not there with
on time
doing all the grueling hours. Exactly. Yes, you get to leave early. So it was always fun for me to consult, and I will do it until I can't do it anymore because I love being able to pop into a restaurant. You get a bird's eye view when you're not in there every day doing the day to day. You get to see things differently. That's a bonus. So being able to consult, you're able to just kind of extract things and see what's not working and really hone in and make them work even better.
That you dialed in, figured out how to navigate the restaurant business without having to work holidays and weekends.
Yes.
You could just consult on that alone.
Exactly.
For so many people, right? Oh my gosh, that is just truly amazing because that's how I burned out. I literally was like, Valentine's Day, I'm working. New Year's Eve,
Christmas,
I'm working, and they're celebrating, and I'm in the kitchen.
Been there.
So if you're a chef and you're listening, you really want to reach out to Chef Ed because he's got amazing strategies, and I would hire him in a heartbeat if I was wanting to move into consulting.
Thank you, sir.
Doing some more research, and I love this veganish concept. I mean, how did your veganish cookbook evolve?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You don't know what to make for dinner again? You want to explore new cuisines, but you don't have time? What if you have new inspirations and we provide you with the ingredients and recipes? We know you want to travel, learn new foods, explore the world, but life's responsibilities keep getting in your way. What if you can bring those experiences to your home neatly packed into a box? Ladybug Collective is a subscription service that finds real people from around the world to create beautifully curated assortments of recipes, ingredients, and cultural content. Not only do we include cultural ingredients, but also a set of detailed recipe cards with instructions on how to use them. Each box also has a QR code that when scanned takes you to tons more global exploration to immerse yourself in. Everything from film to lifestyle, art to history, it all can be found here. Live your life to the fullest. Subscribe now and don't miss out on the next cultural adventure. Ladybug Collective. Always exploring.
Wow. When we decided that we were going to go vegan, I was like, how do I approach this where I can do it with my family and anyone that's watching or want to do this journey as well? How can they approach it and do it in a way that they can still be successful? So I ran into a few speed bumps, of people saying, oh, well, you're not really vegan, or, we can't do this with you because, you're still doing certain things. And I'm like, yeah, it's a new journey for me. So I was like, I am not eating any meat. I'm not eating any seafood. I'm not eating any dairy or anything like that. If I'm doing dairy, it's,
right,
once in a while here and there. So I wasn't completely vegan. I was vegan-ish, right? Because there was no meat involved at all. Like we stopped cooking meat. We stopped eating it when we went out. There was no dairy. Not dairy. There was no poultry or any kind of seafood involved. So it was just literally at this point, milk and cheese that we were consuming. And this was like when we went out, we weren't even cooking it at home or using it at home. So I was like, how do I do this and be honest with myself and be honest with the people that are following me because they want to be a part of this journey too. So I was like, I'm going to go veganish until I can honestly say that I'm completely vegan. So that took a couple of years because to go cold turkey and go vegan cold turkey, I don't know if it's going to be something that you can do successfully for long term because your body goes into shock, because you're so used to consuming these things that have all these additives that you get addictive to.
Yes.
Weaning yourself off of it slowly, to me, is the best route. So that's what Veganish came about. And, I was like, I'm going to write a cookbook, write 2 cookbooks, and just create this whole movement about being veganish because this way I know people can approach it and be okay and know that it's a safe space, right? Because I remember going on Clubhouse when Clubhouse first started and I went into a few different vegan rooms and they asked me, so are you vegan? And I'm like, well, I can't really say that I'm vegan, but I'm in the cusp of being there. And, they made me feel so bad. I was wow. It was tough. And I was like, you can't really do that to people because they're, these are people that are trying and it's new to them.
Chef Ed, even me, man, I am so inspired by this concept because I'm like, how do I switch? How do I start move in that direction? Because like you, I went to cooking school and cooked European food. And it was cream sauces. And I had to wean myself away from that. It was so difficult. But I've done it and I'm slowly making more strides. And when I look at your recipes and I listen to you describe the foods that you cook, it lights me up. And your spices, we're going to talk about those. We're getting to those soon. To me, that is a great concept.
Thank you. I really appreciate it because, it came from my heart. Like, how do I approach veganism in a way that I'm true to myself and being honest with the people around me, knocking out meat, knocking out dairy one day at a time. When we were comfortable with eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, no meat, no dairy, then it became 2 days. But it was a process. Because we took this route, we were successful at it. Like we didn't ever go back, kept going forward. We would take 5 steps forward, maybe 1 step back, never to the point where we were like, oh man, we messed up. Like, no, it was always about giving yourself grace until you were comfortable enough to be able to say, oh, well, I'm not going to order that. Do you have any dairy in this? Can I get it without cheese? And that was what Veganish, how it started. And then, today we can completely say that we are, 100% vegan. And that's just because of the route that we took.
That's incredible. It's a Veganish cookbook. Now, I also want to get to this because we're going to wrap up soon, but I really want to know the backstory behind your spice line and especially Faye's flavor enhancers.
Yes. So Faye's my mom.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, she's my mom. And, my mom is my rock, man. She has supported me, from day one. Never doubted me. She's like, this is what you want to do. You want to go to culinary school? Okay, no problem. She always had my back, from day one. I love her. I love food. I always cooked with spices. And I was like, man, so my wife goes, it'd be nice if we did some spices and, kind of maybe put your mom's name on it or something. I was like, man, that's a great idea. I'm here because of her. So our first line of spices that we created was called Faye's Flavor Enhancers. And, the label is actually her favorite flower, the patchouli flower. So I created the label, prized her. I had the whole line created and I had them in my home.
Oh.
And we invited her over and then I started recording and I actually had a video of it that I posted.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, Mom, check out these spices. And she's reading and she's like, Faye's Flavor Enhancers, what's that?
Oh my God.
Mom, we made this because of you. And she's like, what? And she was just totally shocked and in awe. It was amazing, and that led to the evolution of the next set of spices, because I was like,
right.
Everyone can buy garlic powder and onion powder. Like there's no need for them to come and buy from me.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do we up the ante? So I decided to really play around with the spice mixes that I create at home that I use when I cook. And that's like my curry mixes or my Middle Eastern mixes, my Mexican mixes. I did that and we created this whole line.
Tacos in there on the Mexican, yeah.
Exactly. Taco Tuesday,
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So we created that line of spices and that has been selling like crazy.
Awesome.
And the reviews are just phenomenal. So that's kind of how the whole spice line came about.
Wow. The names that you come up with, to me, it's all about a name.
Yes.
Voice for Chefs. I struggled for a month to come up with Voice for Chefs.
I love that name.
Thank you, man, because it's really what the podcast is about. It's giving chefs a voice and a space. Well, I feel mutual, very, very mutual with you, because what you don't know is when I created this podcast, I literally had this vision of connecting to chefs that had not just celebrity chefs, but chefs that had compelling stories.
Yep.
And you have such a compelling story. And you are truly a voice for chefs, because chefs that are going to listen to this, they're working so hard and they may hear your story and just feel really inspired. That's the whole purpose behind this podcast. There's no other reason.
I dig it.
I work a regular job. I do this part-time. I owe my wife so much because I'm always working on this, but it's where real passion comes from. And I've been so fortunate to have guests on that have compelling stories and really give back. And you are definitely one of those people. And I'm so honored to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And say thank you to your wife from me as well.
I will. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to get her some spices, but she doesn't know it yet.
Cool.
So we'll do that in secret. So we talked about your spices. We've talked about your cookbooks. We talked a little bit about your consulting. And I want to know, I read somewhere that you've traveled around the world to really get inspired.
Yes.
Where have you traveled to? Where would you go back to other than the Caribbean?
Oh, I love that question.
And what restaurant would you go to?
Whew. All right.
It's a loaded question. I know.
It is a loaded question,
I told you we were going to have fun, Ed.
Let's do it.
You're staying up late, man. I'm honored. So,
Definitely. I've been to India. I've been to Thailand.
Wow.
I've been to London. I've been to Africa. I've been to China, Japan, Korea. I've been to Guyana. I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to, where else have I been?
All over.
Yeah, pretty much all over. Almost every continent except for Australia.
Oh my gosh.
In terms of food, man, Thailand and India, I have to say, honestly, I can't. I mean, Japan, the noodles and the soba and the udon noodles were epic, right? And then Thailand, the Thai curries was just phenomenal. Like I have never tasted Thai curry like the Thai curry I've had in India. I mean, not in India, in Thailand, anywhere. So definitely Thai curry in Thailand is a must.
Okay.
India, of course, for curry because it's India, you know, and that's the place that you go to have the best curry.
Favorite?
I can't really say my absolute favorite place. You know, there's just so many, right?
People always ask me your favorite episode, but honestly, it's so hard because everyone has a different voice. Everyone has a different story to share, but the food and the travel, it's like, how do you have a favorite place?
Exactly.
I've traveled around. I always told people that I had to hang on when I married my wife because she loved to travel. So it's like, we got married. I hung on. We got married in southern Italy. 5 hours by bus to Gravina in Puglia. First Americans ever to be married.
Wow.
And the whole town wanted to be in the wedding, man.
No way.
It is. It is so special. And she created this vision.
That's awesome.
Why I married her. I mean, she's such a creative,
amazing
designer and user researcher. She's brilliant, but she doesn't cook. So it's a trade-off, right? But I cook and we go out to eat. But anyway, Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
Because I just love it when I could just hear in your voice that you were lit up.
Exactly.
You know, and I could just feel it. As we wrap up, is there any dish that really made you that said, this is my signature? Is there any dish that you create that people should know about?
Wow.
Is that a tough one?
That is a tough one. Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't even know where to start with that one. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't Chopped, right? It wasn't the dish on Chopped.
No, it definitely wasn't the dish on Chopped. But you know what? I'll say this. When I met my wife, girlfriend at the time, I made her a delicious sandwich.
Oh.
It was toasted English muffins, right? Cheese, avocados, tomatoes, sauteed onions and peppers. And back then we were eating meat, so there was an egg involved and turkey bacon.
Sure.
Now that we're vegan, I totally had to redo that sandwich because I love making that sandwich. So we leave out the bacon, we leave out the egg, and it's just mushrooms instead. You know, anytime I make it, the kids go crazy. Everyone goes crazy. Like I've done it at different pop-up events that I've done, and it's always the same reaction. So it's one of those things where I feel like this particular sandwich was like, because it was mind-blowing to my wife at the time. She had it and she's like, what? What is this? That's kind of where I would say one of my signature dishes are, besides like my dumplings. I do really amazing mushroom dumplings.
Oh.
I've had people tell me, I don't eat mushrooms, but your pot stickers, I will order them every day. So between the sandwich and the dumplings, that would be where I would say my signature dish would be. Definitely those two.
What's in the dumplings? So you got mushrooms. What kind of mushrooms? Wild, shiitake?
I do a mix. Yes, I do a mixture of mushrooms. So you get different textures when you're biting into it. So I do shiitakes, I do lion's mane, and I do oyster mushroom.
Oh.
Yes, definitely. It plays on the texture component. And then, of course, the umami is there. You know, I add ginger, scallions, garlic, onions, I caramelize these. I mix it in really nicely, some sesame oil in there. What I like to do in my dumplings, I like to boil them and then sear them. So you get two textures as well on the outside, right? You get the wet part because you're searing part of it and then you're boiling it. So it's just a really nice play on flavor and texture. A nice chili sauce, some sesame oil, some soy sauce, some sambal, fresh scallions in there, a little bit of sesame seeds, and, you just go ham.
Wow. You've been a chef for a long time. How long would you say?
I started cooking professionally at 20 and I am 42. So 22 years professionally. Yeah.
Okay. You must have had a kitchen disaster in your life. Is there one kitchen disaster that you can share with all of us?
Oh yeah, easily. So when I was consulting here in Atlanta, I was doing a soup. I was showing the guys how to do this soup for the lunch menu. With Vitamixes, right? When you put the lid on, if you don't put it on properly and the liquid is hot, what happens? The air, when you turn on the blender, it immediately pops the lid.
Yep.
I totally forgot because I'm like trying to explain to the line cooks as I'm talking to them, and I didn't think. And I turned the blender on, and of course, the blender shoots the lid off the top. The sauce, the soup hits the ceiling, splashes down on all over the blender and the counter. And I'm like, well, guys, this is what you do not do on your first week of working at a restaurant. That was my disaster for sure.
Oh my God. Wow. As you were giving them advice, do you have any advice that you can offer to our listeners about becoming a chef? And I'll tell you why I asked this question, because I interviewed somebody who's a friend of mine. His daughter was turning 16, was 16 at the time. Her name is Olivia, and Olivia loves to cook. She cooked with Disney and, started out really, really young, and then she got into lots of cooking, and she got fascinated by helping people around food deserts, and she was studying, and she wants to get involved in that as a volunteer through her school, and just all these amazing things around food, right? So for Olivia, at 16, I released her episode. We interviewed, and I released her episode at 17, when she turned 17. What advice would you give her about becoming a chef?
I love that question. So to Olivia and to anyone listening, definitely being humble is key, and being patient, right? Being able to take a step back and listen, and learn, and be a sponge, be a sponge every single day, 24/7. That will allow you to really learn the right way. Be open. As a young chef, you definitely want to acquire skill. And the only way you can do that is by doing the things that nobody wants to do, showing up early, leaving late.
Yes.
Don't call out. Don't ask to leave early, unless it's an emergency and things like that. But you have to show that you're dedicated. And the way to show that you're dedicated is by showing up. Like for me, for instance, I was always at work the latest at half an hour early. I would get to work between 30 minutes to an hour early every single day, no matter what. And I was always one of the last people to leave. That's definitely one thing I would say, because that shows integrity, and that shows the chef that you're actually in it, for the long haul, right? Not being too cocky. I'll give a quick story. When I was much younger and I was working in New York City, one of the restaurants I worked in, Michael's, I was like fresh out of culinary school, and I was really rocking, and I was doing my thing. At that point in time, the chef, they had let go of one of the sous chefs. Me being able to work all of the stations, I kind of stepped into that role, but without the official title, right? Because of that, I felt this bravado, and I was like, well, I'm untouchable. You can do whatever. That was the wrong way to think. But, it was a learning experience for me, because that job showed me that regardless of how good you are, how great you are expendable.
Right.
So long story short, I got fired because I was butting heads with the chef. And it wasn't that I was being disrespectful. It was more of me just being too cocky, right? And just
too young.
Yeah, I was too young, I didn't know how to do things the right way, right? And how to express myself in a way that didn't come off disrespectfully. Long story short, I say this to say I was so good at that job that even though I got fired, they called me back to work a year later because they needed a sous chef.
Okay.
So I say this to say, be humble and just absorb as much as you can and get that information. And even when you think you're really good, still be humble, because there is always going to be somebody that's better than you. Like, that's just life.
That is absolutely excellent advice. I am going to share that with Olivia. The last thing I want to ask you about, and I see this question and it makes me think, I know not only being a chef, being a celebrity chef, being a consultant, and being a real advocate for veganish cooking, you also give back to the community. Can you just give us a real quick about some of the things you've been involved with in community work? I also know that you worked with the James Beard Foundation, which is one of my organizations that I absolutely believe and love.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. All about donating and volunteering, because I feel as any person anywhere in the world, no matter who you are, like, everyone has a gift. And when you can hone in on that and use it to help someone else, you should definitely take that opportunity. So I did Autism Speaks in New York several times, James Beard a few times as well.
Oh my gosh.
I did a bunch of different charities. I even volunteered my time at a public school in New York where we were there for about 6 months. And once a week, we would just teach the kids how to cook healthy and how just to do things at home.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And, those were just some of the things I did. Even here in Atlanta, we would donate and I would just volunteer my time and just show the people that cook for the women that are in shelters, just how to make food at home with using the bare basics, minimum, that you can just still create delicious food, no matter what you're using, as long as you're cooking at home. So I love to give back when I can and do it different ways. And I'm always open to just doing different things where I can offer my knowledge and my skill to help someone else. So thank you for asking that.
You're welcome. And thank you for contributing and really volunteering and giving back to the community. It's so important.
I think so.
The work that you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
So the very last question I have for you is, now it's interesting because I think as our listeners have been following along, they're probably Googling you immediately. How do I get hold of them? How do I connect with them? How do we connect with you? What's the best way?
All right. So all social media is at Chef Ed Harris. So very easy. It's easy to find me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all Chef Ed Harris. And, my website, if you want to check out that, it's Knife and Spoon. It's knife with the letter N and then spoon. So I wanted to make that, sort of different. Right. But, that's the best way to find me.
And we'll also put all that information in the show notes.
Cool.
You didn't mention this, so I am going to, and I believe this is still out there. They can text you.
Yes.
Your number, and you will share recipes with them. And not only that, audio coaching,
yes,
which I think is just phenomenal. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yes, thank you so much. So I do a podcast where I literally just share tips and tricks that I've acquired over the years and just delicious vegan recipes. And I also have a text community where you can text hashtag Eat More Veggies to 404-383-4405. And you get locked into my community. And with that, I just share awesome tips. I share ideas when we're launching new products. You get firsthand experience or you get access to it. Sometimes we do giveaways. So just really building a community where people can get help, especially if they're trying to be more vegan, then this is definitely a community to be a part of. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. And Chef Ed, I have been so excited about this interview ever since the day I met you. And I can't say enough. Thank you for sharing your journey with us on Voice for Chefs.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share my journey. I really, truly appreciate it. And what you're doing here is just amazing. The fact that you're allowing chefs to just share their journeys and their life, all of their experiences, it's definitely needed because a lot of chefs don't have a platform to just share. We're always in the back, unless you're the owner, and you're the chef.
Right.
Right. But a lot of the times people don't know who the chefs are. And, that's different nowadays, depending on the restaurant you're in. But for the most part, you don't know. And, I just thank you for doing this. It's definitely needed.
I'm Maria Campbell, a chef by trade and founder of Cooks Who Care, a community advocate to cover mental health costs for food and beverage workers. We've launched our first community cookbook project to include 28 Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware County, and they include chefs, mixologists, and wellness experts who contributed recipes to inspire home entertaining ideas. You can get to know the people behind the recipes as you watch videos as they share how-to steps, as well as get great ideas for gathering people in your home or places you love. You can donate to the fund to help us kickstart this project. It is our initial in the 2022 year, and it'll be ready to help serve others who are serving you. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars, and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs. Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars, and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs.